Hello, aspirants. Very warm welcome to Scholar IAS. This is your faculty, Rohan Dange, for economy. And today we are going to start with a topic which is very generic in nature, but a topic which is very important because, see, anyways, it's needless to say that every topic is important because generally I say that in all my lectures, right? But the point I want to drive home right now is that this particular topic, which you're seeing on your screen, Make in India, is a very generic topic. It has a particular overlap with Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Make in India is also about reducing India's reliance on other countries, especially China. At the same time, we have a very ambitious target of becoming a $5 trillion economy by the year 2025. Keeping all these things in view, quite naturally, our focus is going to be on Make in India. Now, one more thing I would like to suggest or would like to talk about here is the fact that in 2016, UPSC had asked an essay on jobless growth. Now, when you're confronted with such topics, you have to stretch the limits of your mental faculties. At that point in time, lectures like these would help you a lot. Why I'm saying this is because when you talk about jobless growth, and since joblessness is also a current affair issue right now because we have achieved the what you can say the notorious distinction of having a 45-year high of unemployment rates in India. Keeping that in view, one must understand that the focus on manufacturing has to be recalibrated. India has been a service sector economy for a very long period of time. In fact, in the words of Raghuram Rajan, we are a third world economy we are a third world country with a first world economy. That means that just like the developed world, our economy is also centered around the services sector. Right. But at the same time, we must understand and we must humbly accept that we are a lower middle income country as per the classification of World Bank as well. So the nature of your economy should be such that manufacturing has a huge pie and it should have a huge share of as a percentage of GDP. But unfortunately, today manufacturing is contributing somewhere between 16 and 17% of our GDP. Although our target is to take it to the rate of 25%. And keeping all of these things in view, keeping the aspect of joblessness in mind, we must also understand that artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning are also the issues are also new developments which are actually impinging upon the development of the job sector or the expansion of the job sector. Correct. Keeping that in view, Make in India becomes a very important initiative by the government of India because it is not only going to tackle joblessness, but it is also going to lead to a lot of skill upgradations in the economy. It is also going to lead to India becoming self-reliant in many of the sectors. It is also going to improve India's export orientation in many of the sectors. It is also going to help India in achieving the dream of becoming a $5 trillion economy. It is also about saving India's foreign exchange. It is also about earning more dollars, and it is also about reducing our reliance, especially on China. So there are so many factors which revolve around the success of Make in India. And therefore, from the mains answer writing point of view or from an essay answer writing point of view, Make in India has some sort of a, what you can say, very special place in the current affairs today. So having said all of that, I would like to talk about the issues, or I would like to talk about the elements which were in the news, especially in economic survey and budget. So what is the Indian government doing and what are the steps that have been taken to ensure that Make in India becomes recalibrated, revitalized, and resuscitated? Because Make in India for a brief period in time in 2018 and 2019, and especially in 2020, received a big setback, and it was almost in a state of coma, right? It was in a state of what you can say global recession induced coma, I would say. So Make in India requires definite attention. It requires definite focus. And keeping that in view, of course, we need to talk about the factual elements within Make in India. And today I'm going to also talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan because it was also one of those government schemes or government initiatives which were highly publicized, there were many expectations from these schemes. At the same time, they were announced. In fact, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan was announced when the country was in a deep state of crisis, not just a health crisis, but also an economic crisis last year, right? So we have to understand the elements of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. So let's take a look at the factual elements of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So let's begin. So, as all of you know, it's an initiative. Make in India is an initiative by the government of India to encourage companies to manufacture in India and thereby improve the export orientation and the export basket of the country. So, obviously, this was about incentivizing and rewarding companies which were investing into manufacturing. And obviously it means that we have to create a suitable, a favorable, and a very solid environment for, or a very solid system, ecological system for our countries, for our companies to invest, for our companies to, or for our private enterprises to expand. And also when we open up the FDI sector, I mean when we open up FDI in a lot of sectors, for example in insurance and banking and automobiles and healthcare, opening up the economy or opening up FDI not is important, but at the end of the day, it is not the final step. The final step is actually getting investment. When you open your doors, that's okay, but is the investment walking in? So to ensure that you have a magnetizing impact as a nation on the investments, you have to ensure that you create an ecosystem of simplified taxation systems, of giving a boost to to companies to invest more in SEZs and exclusive economic zones. Having said that, since it is Make in India, I'm going to focus totally on the Indian companies and not foreign direct investment. Correct. So even when you chart out a growth path, you have to keep in mind the exclusive economic zones and special economic zones, and also the national manufacturing policy or national investment and industrial and manufacturing zones. So basically, the Make in India initiative targeted 25 economic sectors for job creation and skill upgradations. And it also aimed to transform India into a global design and manufacturing hub. For example, electronic design industry or semiconductor design industry or processors designing industry. That has a huge scope for India in the future. And therefore, keeping that in view, it's important that India focuses enough. So the what you can say, the Ministry of Electronics and IT is focusing specifically on improving India's export basket when it comes to the design sector. Now, Make in India at the outset had three stated objectives. First was to increase the manufacturing sector's growth rate to 12 to 14% per annum. Also, to create 100 million additional manufacturing jobs in the country by 2022, and to ensure that the manufacturing sector's contribution to GDP is increased to 25%, right? Which was basically later revised in 20. It was now the target has been shifted to 2025, quite naturally because of the COVID-19 induced pandemic and the lockdown situation, which has halted our economy and which has dented our economic prospects. So after the launch, India gave investment commitments worth rupees 16.4 lakh crores and investment inquiries worth rupees 1.5 lakh crores between September 2014 and February 2016. So as I said, in those days, there was a lot of activity, but since then, there has been a lot of slowdown. There has been a lot of, what you can say, the activity has been halting and patching, to say the least, right? As per the current policy, 100% FDI is permitted in all the 100 sectors except for space industry, where the level of FDI is 74%, a defense industry where 49% is allowed, and the media where only 26% is allowed. So this kind of these figures are very important also because they would come in very handy if such a statement is inserted in your prelims questions. So again, I would repeat, uh, that according to the current policy, 100% FDI is permitted in all the 100 sectors. Now, you would be compelled to think, and in fact, you should think, if we are talking about Make in India, then why are we talking about FDI? Because FDI primarily pertains to a foreign company, right? But when we speak of Make in India, it pertains to the domestic economy and the domestic manufacturer, correct? The issue or the fundamental that you have to understand here is that we are also looking at collaborations. We are also looking at joint ventures. We are also looking at technology transfer. A prime example of that would be Maruti Suzuki. Now, Maruti Suzuki car is completely designed and assembled and obviously distributed in India. Right? It is not a custom built unit. It is assembled in India. The engine also is made in India. So there are various companies who might want to come to India for, and they might want to set up a factory for assembly line manufacturing. In that case, they might enter into a joint venture or they might float what you can say a special purpose vehicle with an Indian company. So that would also give boost to Make in India, because then they would primarily registered in India. So therefore, those companies which are coming up with the registered offices in India would pay the taxes in India also. And not just that, it would lead to job creation, it would lead to skill upgradation, it would lead to technological upgradation, and it would also lead to the ultimate benefit of the consumer, who would get more services at a better price, right? So yes, in all the 100 sectors, FDI is permitted, keeping in view that Indian domestic manufacturers would also tie up with these FDI investors. And basically, FDI, when it comes into India, it is also going to improve the global the logistics and the supply chain frameworks in the country. So that's a huge boost. So yes, space industry 74%, defense industry 49%, and the media is 26%. Right. Japan and India had also announced 12 billion Japan India Make in India special finance facility. That was a fund to push investment into India. And in line with Make in India, individual states also laid down a red carpet welcome and also conceptualized and designed their own customized programs like Make in Odisha, Tamil Nadu Global Investors Meet, Vibrant Gujarat, Happening Haryana, and Magnetic Maharashtra. Why? Because this was basically to garner a lot of investment and to mobilize a lot of financial capital. Now, when we speak of the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report, which is quite a benchmark report and helps us to recognize and acknowledge our achievements and our failures or our deficits, it acknowledges India's jump by 23 positions against its previous rank of 100 in 2017, to be now placed at 63rd rank amongst 190 countries. So that's a substantial leap, and that substantial leap is because of the simplification of the tax procedures in India. Is also because of contracts becoming more seamless. So by the end of 2017, India had risen 42 places on the Ease of Doing Business Index. 32 places. There was a leap of 32 places at the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index, and 19 notches in the Logistics Performance Index. So let me tell you, Logistics Performance Index is actually published by World Bank, but Global Competitiveness Index is published by the World Economic Forum. Right. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind, keeping in view your requirements for prelims. Right. Now, there are various government initiatives which have been initiated specifically for giving a boost and specifically as complementary or supplementary inputs to Make in India. That would be the Bharatmala project, where we are envisaging constructing thousands of kilometers of highways. Sagarmala project, which is about a port development project in India, wherein we are going to create various ports with a deep draft, and that would enable a lot of big vessels like the one which was stuck in the Suez Canal recently to come to India for refueling facilities and also for docking. We have also conceptualized and designed dedicated freight corridors, just like the Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor, which is going to focus typically on rail transport, or the basically we are also going to envisage a ecosystem coming around that dedicated freight corridor, which is going to be a multi-modal freight corridor. It will involve rail, road, and even inland waterways if possible. Right, industrial corridors, of course, and then the UDAN scheme, which is also known as the Regional Connectivity Scheme, which is going to give a boost to the domestic aviation sector, and the domestic aviation sector would receive a shot in the arm if this UDAN actually takes off, metaphorically and literally, quite literally speaking also. Why? Because of the COVID-19 situation, 2020 was perhaps the worst year for Indian aviation industry. And to recover from that, yes, schemes like UDAN and Regional Connectivity Scheme would would perhaps become the Batman, would perhaps swoop in with their cape and rescue the damsel in distress, which is the aviation sector. Then, of course, under the Digital India Mission, we have conceptualized the Bharat Broadband Network, in which we are also thinking about, or also what you can say, developing or moving towards a completely Wi-Fi India, wherein all the 6 lakh panchayats in the country are going to be digitalized or broadband enabled, right? So the FDI stimulates countries' economic developments and creates more conducive environment. So in defense, up to 74% under automatic route and above 74% through government route is allowed. In civil aviation, 100% FDI under automatic route in greenfield projects and 74% FDI in brownfield projects under automatic route is allowed. Now, broadcasting, new sectoral caps and entry routes are as under. So broadcasting, carriage service and downlinking of news channels, there you have 100% FDI. And cable networks, you have 100% FDI. News channels, you have 49% FDI, right? So from 26% previously, it has gone up to 49%. And in defense, from it has gone up to 74% now, right? In banking, the FDI has been elevated to 74% with 49% under automatic route, and rest is through the government route. Now, what is the automatic route? You can directly inject money into the system, whereas through the government route, you have to take the approval of the government, which is basically provided by the Reserve Bank of India. In railways, we have seen a paradigmatic shift, which was not expected, but we have seen that 100% FDI under automatic route is permitted now in the construction of railway infrastructure, operation of railways, and the maintenance of rail infra projects, right? So for likewise, I have listed all the other sectors which are very critical for the growth of Indian economy, including construction, pharmaceuticals, plantation, telecom, insurance and pension, and even medical devices. Now, in medical devices, 100% FDI under automatic route for manufacturing of medical devices has been permitted. Important because of COVID-19 and prelims, right? In telecom, FDI up to 100% with 49% on under automatic route is allowed now, right? So you can just pause the video and you can definitely take this down in your copy. So likewise, in e-commerce industry also 100% FDI in business to business e-commerce is allowed. Single brand retail trading entity permitted for B2C, with that is business to consumer, right? In retail, you have 100% FDI and 49% under automatic. Okay. Now let's talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which is about recovery. I would say this is about bringing Indian economy out of the ICU. So when you talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or the Self-Reliant India campaign, it is basically aimed at allowing India a safe passage in these times of crisis. And it is under this particular scheme, a comprehensive package of 20 lakh crores was basically announced by our Prime Minister, which is a whooping 10% of India's GDP. So the aim is to make the country and its citizens independent and self-reliant in all senses, right? So what are the pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan? Economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant demography, and demand. These are the 5 pillars. So in the prelims, you could be asked which one of these following are the 5 pillars of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So the answer to that is quite simple: economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant demography, and demand. Okay. So the first tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan was it amounted to almost 6 lakh crore rupees. So here collateral free loans and emergency credit line was given to MSMEs to the tune of 3 lakh crores. And in fact, the emergency credit line guarantee scheme is now continued and extended by the government of India. So the emergency credit line guarantee scheme is something that you should also read for prelims purposes. Now there is subordinate debt for stressed MSMEs that was extended to the tune of 20,000 crores, wherein uh, all the stressed MSMEs which were under a lot of financial crunch and could not pay back the loans, there was a supportive debt or there was a supportive credit facility given to them to the tune of in total 20,000 crores. Then there was a fund of funds for an equity infusion to MSMEs that amounted to 50,000 crores. Because of so much of focus and renewed focus on MSMEs, it was expected that MSMEs also get listed on the main board of stock exchanges so that they could also raise valuable capital, right? EPF support was given by the government to the tune of 2,800 crores because there were reduced EPF rates for both employer and employee, which led to cumulative savings, and those cumulative savings amounted to 6,750 crores. See, most of this is notional. I won't say that this was a direct financial package or this was a direct financial compensation declared by the government. This was mostly notional, or this was mostly calculated in a very clever manner so as to make the figures look inflated. But anyways, this is not our place to decry what the government has done. Our job is to basically focus on how much the government has infused in the economy through the direct route and through the indirect route, right? So there have been various schemes like the partial credit guarantee scheme for liabilities of NBFCs, which amounted to 45,000 crores, because quite naturally, when the NBFCs were under a lot of stress, people were not able to pay their EMIs to the NBFCs, right? So for discounts also, the state distribution companies, Power Finance Corporation, they were also reeling under a lot of losses, right? So a liquidity injection of 90,000 crores was also announced for them. So there was a reduction in the tax deduction rate. So that also amounted to savings of 50,000 crores. So this is how the government has very cleverly arrived at a figure of 50,000, right? In the second tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, a total of 3,10,000 crores was expected to be disbursed. And in this, through the Mudra Shishu loans, 1,500 crores were to be given. So here also you will see that many schemes have been, what you can say, mentioned. So what you can do is you can just pause the video and take what you can say, a note of all these things. Correct. And the third tranche was very important because here a lot of questions could be asked, like for example, Agri Infrastructure Fund, for including cold chain and post harvest infrastructure. For that, 1 lakh crore was disbursed. Then Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, here 11,000 crores were given for initiatives in marine inland fisheries and aquaculture, and 9,000 crores were also given for creation of infrastructure. This is additional 9,000 crores that was given for creating fishing harbors, cold chain markets. There was also, apart from the Agri Infrastructure Fund, there was another fund, Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund, wherein 15,000 crores was announced, right? Now for herbal cultivation, 4,000 crores, for Operation Greens, 500 crores. Now these are the usual suspects. Operation Greens is every year in the news, right? So basically now it has been extended from top, which is tomatoes, onion and potatoes, to all the fruits and vegetables. For beekeeping activities also 500 crores were announced, right? The fourth and fifth tranches would come and would amount to 48,100 crores. So in that, there is a additional Manrega allocation to the tune of 40,000 crores, which is almost, one can say, is an annual expenditure on behalf of the government of India. And then there is viability gap funding, which is about funding the stalled infrastructural projects, which is about funding the special purpose vehicles, which are creating physical and social infrastructure in the country. Right. So under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, under various tranches, these loans are going to be disbursed to the people or to various sectors. Right. Now, why did I Make Up India with Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan? Because for Make in India to reach the stratospheric heights as it is expected to, it is important that Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan revitalizes the Indian economy. Unless that revitalization happens, unless you don't push the economy into a healthy state, how are you going to ever expect the economy to run like an athlete, right? And for that, the resuscitation of Indian economy is quite important. Therefore, today's lecture was focused on Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Here you will have to understand that these are the facts and figures which I have given you today. Conceptual understanding is a little less. Whatever that I spoke at the beginning of the lecture was all the conceptual understanding that you needed. But these are the kind of things which help you in writing your mains answer and also in tackling your essays, right? So with my 2 cents of advice, I would wrap up today's edition of our series on current affairs. I would see you very soon with international relations. So till the time we meet next, this is Rohan Dange signing off from Scholar IAS. Thank you. Take care. Keep practicing social distancing. Thank you.